So in my experience, my parenting style is very similar to his, and I kind of take on like what you were mentioning as your guys' parenting style. Like definitely on the side of being, what is that? What is that word? Gentle parenting. Welcome to Mom Meets World, a podcast talking all things motherhood, friendships, and life. We're your hosts, Elena Brookmeyer
and Peyton Saraiva. We have a lot of ground to cover, so let's dive right in.
Hey, y'all.
Hey guys, how's it going? Welcome back to another episode of Mom Meets World. We have a great episode today. Our conversation is full of love and intention. But to start it off, we kind of talk about our promotion with Fuchsia. We talk about some moments. We also talk about what's going on in the day in life of Elena, Peyton, Cooper, and Chloe. And the really, really good guts of our conversation today is about generational parenting, how it looks for us, our parenting styles with our kiddos, but also what it looked like for us growing up, how our parents were raised, and just how things change and evolve over time. What are the trends of today's parenting? Are they right? Are they wrong? And examples of how we are trying our best every single day to learn, teach, and educate our kids so we can grow and raise really good tiny humans. Elena, do you have anything to add in?
Yeah, I mean, you said it well right there. I mean, we just like kind of did some nitpicking of all the different generational differences and shared our own experiences, and especially a lot about our own parents and just them being grandparents and being hands-on. We know the drill of sometimes grandparents have some things to say, and sometimes we all learn when to say things or not ask for help or whatever it is. So it's a forever learning curve with our growing families, but it's all good. It's all loving.
It comes from a place of love, just like
Yes.
whatever we do with our kids comes from a place of love. Are you ready to do it?
Let's do it. Let's dive in. All right. Hey, welcome back. Let's do a little weekly catch up. Weekly catch up. So fill everyone in on what's going on in your world.
Well, spring has sprung. I am still on my running journey, and I am absolutely loving it. Haven't missed a run yet. I'm having some shin and leg pain, which I think that's to be expected. Kind of lame, but I'm really proud of myself for getting out there and continuing to do it. And they do say that it starts to become kind of habitual, and I'm feeling really excited that I know it's my day to run because I'm doing every other day at the moment. I think eventually I'll get into every day. But at the moment, I'm doing every other day, trying to start off. But I'm noticing my pace is getting faster per kilometer, and my body is going, all right, it's your day to do it. So it's kind of preparing itself for that, and I'm really enjoying that. And we are still sober. We are taking some weeks off drinking. It is my birthday month. So we're kind of gearing up for what the next few weeks look like. But it's been nice to kind of change our habits around with my body and my mind, and it's been feeling good. I think mentally I'm getting a lot better. And I think it has to do with a little bit of the diet, exercise, and drinking. How about that?
What a good combo. I know. It's like crazy what all the little differences or little tweaks you do and just how much it really all adds up. So yay, go you. I'm so proud of you.
Thank you. And what else? Cooper is back into swimming, which has been good. And I am just trying to navigate my new job. So that's kind of another thing I am working through. Not to get into the nitty gritty of it all, but I'm trying to figure out, I think I'm at a fork in the road as far as if I'm wanting to stick with something that I've been currently doing, which is the property management side, or if I'm wanting to dive into learning about sales. I think that there's opportunity within both realms of the business, but I think that I have to do what's best for me and my family in this time in our life. And I haven't shared too much about it, but the daycare situation down in Narooma and Dalmeny area is impossible. It's about a 2-year wait list, and it's a constant battle, and it's something that I'm finding to be quite aggravating, if I were to say the least. We're trying to find our way into this community, and it's kind of putting the barriers up for any newcomers to join into the area. So we put Cooper on the wait list in August of last year, and it's been now a full year and a month, and we are still number 13 and 14.
Like you haven't even moved at all on the list?
So when we started off, we were in the 40s. So we have
Okay.
moved. And fun fact for all my U.S. listeners: the calendar year slash the like school seasons begin in January. So we
Huh.
have our long school holidays, is what they call them, or summer vacation, and that's in the month of December to January because that is our peak summer. So the kids have 6 weeks off from like let's say December 15th all the way up until end of January, and that is our summer. And so the school terms start in January, February. So
Interesting.
it is interesting. So the movement of preschools will be updated in February. The way that works is as kids get older, they go to preschool at age 3 here. And so if kids start to go to preschool, there'll be spots opening up for the 2 and under classes where Cooper will be two until May. And so there's a chance we'll get in, but again, we're 13 and 14. So that's a lot of kids that are going to have to either refuse their spot or go to preschool or drop out in order for us to get in. So I think that's just making our transition into me being an employee or a worker extremely challenging. So that's kind of the current battle. I think at this point in time, I'm feeling really frustrated about it, just being honest, instead of like kind of understanding. I think, how are we supposed to continue working down here and finding our place in a community where I can't even find work and I don't know what they expect us to do? And I'm not asking for sympathy or condolences. I just like, I'm finding a little frustration. So just being transparent with you and about kind of that side of things. But I like my job a lot. I like who I'm working for. I just need childcare in order to dive more into the job and kind of get more involved. And I'm not quite sure how we're going to do that. So that's a little bit of
Yeah.
a struggle in my life and just wanting to keep it real.
Yeah. Makes sense. Well, thanks for always keeping it real. That's just so frustrating because I know you're not the only one, in this position or even just feeling frustrated with childcare in general or not being able to make it happen because it obviously decreases opportunities for us to pursue things that we want to do as moms and with work. And yeah, very frustrating. But it's just like, I guess, comparing to, okay, just over a year, you moved all the way down from 40 something to now in the teens. So
Yep.
there's light at the end of the tunnel, but it's just like, who knows? And
Who
that's
knows?
that's another tricky one.
It's okay. We will be fine.
Yes.
I'm a pretty optimistic person, so I'm able to juggle a lot. Chase's work is definitely picking up, so he's able to pick up some of the slack around the house in the afternoons and evenings, or whenever I'm, needing to be in office, he's able to be home with Cooper, which makes him happy, of course. But yeah, that's where I am at. Cooper is doing great at the moment. I haven't shared any funny stories about him, but he's now calling me mommy, and Dada is now daddy. So we're definitely like
No.
transitioning into like different languages, and his speech is taken off. And so it's really fun. He's actually turning into the parrot that Chloe is. Anything I say, he
Oh.
repeats back to me, and so it's been awesome to see him really grow in his speech, but also get his little personality going. So things are really good. Cooper's at a really great stage at the moment.
I love the parrot face because that's when you know they're really blossoming.
Absolutely. So what about you? What's been
Oh,
happening with you?
so
How's this
cute.
Chloe girl?
Yeah, yeah, she's good. She's just living life, keeping on growing. And yeah, she's still keeping me very, very busy, but my heart full of love. I just want to like squeeze her. I want to cuddle her so bad, but she's a freaking toddler, so she won't let me. I'm like, I
Mm.
literally tell her, I just love you. And then she pushes my face away and she's like, no, no love, mama. I'm like rude. So anyways, it's a love hate relationship. It's fine. Um, but yeah, coming up. So Ben is actually about to be going on a little trip for himself, a for fun trip, because I feel like in the past I'll say, oh yeah, my husband's out of town, but he's actually going to be going for fun with one of his best friends who actually lives in California. So they're trying to make this be an annual trip for themselves, which is really cute. They want to go see both of their favorite bands is Incubus. So have you heard of Incubus? I'm
Love
assuming.
Incubus.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So they love them, and so they want to go see them in concert when they're on tour. So they're actually going to Austin, Texas this time around. I forget where they went last year, but it was somewhere kind of random. So they just want to go to a new place each time and kind of follow them around. So, anyways, so while they are out doing that, my dad is actually going to come into town and hang out with me and Chloe. So that'll be a really nice time, good visit, and looking forward to that as always. And just to, number one, have more time with my dad, which I'm all about, but also just to have a little extra help and not be completely solo parenting while Ben's out of town.
It's always nice.
Um, yeah, yeah. So looking forward to all that and letting Ben have fun, like knowing he's out getting that, out of his system and having that really awesome experience helps kind of make me feel better about it too, because I want that for him. So now that that's planned and it's set up, like when he's back in town and my dad leaves, I feel like we're both going to be really refreshed and like hopefully just good energy.
Yes, yes.
Um, so yeah, aside
And
from, huh?
oh, I was just gonna say, and when is Portugal?
Yeah, Portugal's actually like just around the corner. So by the time this airs, Peyton and I record these a little bit ahead of time. So I am going to Portugal late-ish September. So I believe we leave the 19th and we'll be gone through the 28th. So going with my girlfriends we've known each other since middle school. And those three girls live in California still. So Abby, Jennifer, Leah, shout out to you guys. I'm very excited. We're just like still in the trenches of planning, but we've already booked like pretty much all the stays, obviously the flights. And so now we're just kind of like doing all the loose ends with activities and just having some things on the back burner. So super excited for that trip. Um,
Is there anything you're
and
most
yeah,
excited for in Portugal?
I think just experiencing the culture and just like a completely different country. Like, I love just, walking around and seeing, especially Europe in general. I feel like everything has so much detail to it. Like, even the streets, right? Like maybe it's cobblestone streets or whatever it is, or like there's just so much history to the space in general, so much beauty. So I love just seeing all the different details and having different food. And so essentially, like my girls and I are going to be we're going to fly into Lisbon, which is like central essentially of Portugal. And then we're going to do a little drive up north to Porto. Then we're going to take a longer drive from Porto all the way down to Lagos, which is
Yes.
apparently where they filmed Game of Thrones, the show.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I watched some of the show, but I'm excited. So, anyways, and then we'll eventually do the drive back up to Lisbon. So that's going to be our route. And since we're bouncing around a little bit, we'll have change of scenery. And I think also just like getting with these girls, and you know how rare it is to find like we're drama free. These girls are really drama free, and especially for there to be like four total of us, and we've just always like clicked so well and are just like super chill, and no one's super strongly opinionated or like type A or whatever it is, like we just all really mesh well. So I don't have any kind of nerves in that department. So yeah,
Oh,
very
that's so nice.
excited.
I'm really, really excited for you. What a
Thanks.
joy that's going to be, and what an awesome opportunity. Thanks to Ben for stepping up on the home front and being able to like know with confidence that Clo Girl's going to be taken care of, and that you can just go and unplug. Because obviously there's a slight time difference, but you were just going to have a blast. I'm proud of you for going. I know it's a little bit outside of your comfort zone in the sense of leaving Chloe that far away for that long, but in the same breath, I know that she's going to be just fine. And I'm excited for all the stories you're going to have. I think I have a little green envy just because I'd love to join in, but I know
I
it's like a fly on the
know.
wall as well. I'll be here for all the pictures and stories afterwards, and I can't wait for all of the updates when you return.
And we already have our joined calendar event for your birthday call because we were like, the other day we were just talking, oh shoot, you're going to be in Portugal during my birthday. And then it's like a bigger time difference in Portugal compared to Australia. So I'm like, oh shoot, which time are we actually both going to be awake for? So we have it set. We have that to look forward to. We're not going to miss your
It's
birthday.
I think I figured out that I obviously can't move to Portugal if you live in Sydney or vice versa because it is our call is going to be 6 p.m. my time, which is 8 a.m. your time, which means our window of
Yep.
opportunity to even be awake to communicate that day or that trip is going to be so limited. So I just know I'm going to miss you, but I'll be there in spirit and you'll always have a wake up text from me and vice
Yeah.
versa. So I'm
Yeah.
excited for our birthday call. It is my birthday month, and I joke around about it being a whole month about me, or we always joke about birth months, but the autumn is my favorite season, and I think my birthday kind of kicks off our spooky season. So
Yeah.
excited for the month, and I love recording with you, and so I'm glad we're doing a couple episodes in advance, so we don't miss any Mommy World episodes.
Yeah, that's right. Yes, yes. Lots to celebrate. And gosh, I wish I could take you on another surprise date. It wouldn't be a surprise because I'm telling you, but a surprise date like we did the other week with going to a spa and like we're just like, surprise, we're getting massages. And, I knew you wouldn't be upset about it. So if only we could do that again, hit up Fuchsia. So just a reminder to our listeners, you've heard us say it again, like multiple times, but we are getting down to the nitty gritty of Fuchsia's promo wrapping up. So at the end of September. So our partnership with Fuchsia, specifically the Ahwatukee location, that is the code word Ahwatukee. Their buy one, get one free facial. And reminder, if you don't want that second facial, waxing service is for sure an option. So us women like to kind of keep things cleaned up here and there. And of course, like feel free to treat your girlfriend, your mom, whoever, to that second one as well. Share the love. So yeah, if you call in or if you want to stop by that location, that is for sure an option, just not online. And if you do book it by the end of September, you're good to go. And if the booking actually happens or takes place in October, that's totally fine. They just want you to make sure that you contact them within the month of September. So that's that. And we hope to have some more goodies from them up our sleeves as far as some promotions to take advantage of. And we're hoping to build a strong partnership with them because we love the spa. And I told you guys before, I literally have a membership there. That's how much I love them. I have to go at least once a month and get my little facial or massage fix. But that's just me. So let us know if you guys end up taking advantage because we want to hear if it's going well and how much you love it and just some feedback about it. So yeah.
Absolutely. And with that being said, comes changing of seasons, hydration. Obviously, after you get a facial or a massage, you need to drink a lot of water. And I think that kind of leads us into our moment of a product we are currently loving. And I think it's so interesting. Elaine and I are on the same page about this one. I know in the past there's been a big fad, rage. Everyone loves the Stanley Cup. Everyone loves, the big water bottles. You go on Instagram, you see the memes of people carrying around like the 3-gallon jugs, and the husband's joking around about that. But I think as moms, you are always needing to hydrate. And I just wanted to jump in that my moment of the week, and Elaine and I are on the same front about this. We are both big fans of the Owala water bottle. It's kind of a flip cap. They have it in adult sizes as well as kid sizes. And that's my moment. I love my 32-ounce Owala. If you guys don't know what it is, it's a water bottle that has a straw, but also you can sip out of it. But in the
I can
same
display
note,
my old dirty one for anyone who has video access.
white and gray, and then mine is like a teal, like this kind of flip top, and then you can literally pour
Sound effects.
Sound effects. Pew pew. So funky. But what I was getting at is literally you can sip out of it like a straw. You can pour it into a cup. So if you wanted to take your water and pour it into your guys' kids' sippy cup, bottles, whatever that looks like.
Or you can literally just like drink out of it like a normal. Yeah.
It's the best. 10 out of 10 recommends. I love it.
We have our whole family hooked on it. So I have my white one, Ben has a black one, and Chloe has a colorful one, like the kid's size. I forget what the ounces are for it, maybe 14. But I have the 24-ounce one, and I think Ben does too. And I don't know about yours because yours is slightly bigger, but mine fits perfectly in like standard cup holders, especially in the car, which is clutch. So that's a huge win for me.
So that's why I used to love the Stanley, because it fit in my cup holder. My Owala does not, because I actually have the 32-ounce size, and Chase has the big boy one. He's got the 64-ounce because he drinks a lot of water. That is the only thing I liked about my Stanley Cup, is that it fit in the cup holder versus my Owala does not. But in the same note, it's got the little lid feature where I can kind of hook it onto the backpack, hook it onto the diaper bag, or onto my purse that I recommended last week. And it is what it is. My Stanley Cup was so overrated. It knocked over and spilt everywhere. And it actually caused a lot of family fights. Chase hated it. Thought I would sucker it into my TikTok videos, which I definitely did. But I just found it would get knocked over by my dog or by Cooper, and it would spill all over the ground, and I'd lose half the liquid. And my Owala doesn't. So 10 out of 10 recommends this water bottle.
Yeah, we are hooked. Love, love.
Yeah, that was an easy one. I really enjoyed
it. On the same page, yeah.
Yeah, nice and easy. And I like to support stuff that makes being a mom a little bit easier. So I recommend it.
100%. Yes, yes, yes.
All right. So, do you want to kick us off with the topic of the week?
Yeah. So I have a good one that I'm sure everyone can relate to because, we all experience it. So it's essentially coming down to like generational differences as far as parenting goes, right? Like, especially what initially comes into my mind when we were chatting about this being in the topic is especially us being moms now and parents and having kind of our parents or the grandparents of our kiddos chime in. So just seeing the true difference of like styles right there. So it's really interesting. There's a lot to kind of like dive into as far as the layers that this goes into. But yeah, what kind of like originally comes to your mind when we bring up generational differences?
Yeah, I think that right now, I would say in general, we are all, if you go onto the Instagram algorithm that I follow, for example, because everyone is different, right? I think I tend to lean more towards gentler parenting or a little bit more communicative parenting, explaining to your kids what you're doing, why you're doing it before you take it to the next level of parenting. And I think that I was raised in a time where I had really, kind parents. We were never really spanked or hit. I think maybe on one hand I can remember being spanked or that sort of authoritative parenting style. And I think it was on really, really bad occasions. We were either lying or we're doing something really, really naughty. But I also remember it always being still kind of a gentle smack, if that makes sense. And I think it was, again, maybe 5 times max in my sister and I's lives. With that being said, I think for me, I'm ultra sensitive. And so something that was important for me when I was dating Chase and as we decided to get our dog Maverick, that I was anti spanking. I don't want to spank our dog. I don't want to spank our kids. The way I view it, again, this is different for everyone, and you can give your insights in the comments, or Elena, I want you to give your point of view. But I think if you told Cooper no hitting and he's hitting and you hit him to tell him to not hit, you're ingraining the bad behavior. You're responding in a hit when he's hitting, right? Or they're doing something really wrong and you go and hit them. I personally don't find that to be something that I want to do in our family. And so it was wonderful as we got our dog Maverick. The way we parented him aligns a lot with the way we parented or trying to parent Cooper. And our dog is very well behaved, well trained, and we never hit him. We never hurt him, if that makes sense. So I know that you can describe a lot to your kids. You can talk to a lot. I know that there's a lot of extreme situations. There's a lot of theories on parent the kid you have. And right now, Cooper is super sensitive. He's only 2.5. And so, it could change when he's 4 or 5, but the way we're choosing to parent is a lot more calm, a lot more communicative, a lot more, hey, Cooper, this is why we're not doing this. This is why we're not doing this, reiterating why we're not doing it, removing him from the situation, understanding where his actions become or why he's doing what he's doing. And I do think that there's definitely some differences from the way I was raised. What do you think?
Yeah, yeah, that totally resonates. I mean, thank goodness I did not come from a physically,
What's the word? I don't
uh,
even know. I don't want to
I
say
know,
abusive because that's a different word,
no,
but
no. Uh, Parenting in a physical sense, I guess. I don't know, whatever. But yeah, my dad never spanked me or, did anything in a physical sense on that level. Neither did my mom. So, and just to kind of like refresh listeners' memories that like my parents had split up when I was 3 and I stayed, my dad was an only, what is it called? Solo parent for
primary
me,
parent.
primary care parent, because my mom, was struggling with drug addiction. So he was my main parent. And so, I still got to have my experience with my mom. So hers was a little different within me, but she was never abusive in that way. A little bit more emotional, as you can imagine. But yeah, so with my dad, he is just like, and if you've ever met him, you've met him at least once, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
He's just like a very mellow guy, very sensitive, very laid back, similar to me in general. So I kind of take after him. And so, in my experience, my parenting style is very similar to his. And I kind of take on like what you were mentioning as your guys' parenting style. Like, definitely on the side of being, what is that? What is that word? Gentle parenting.
Yeah.
And so I really kind of, I do my best with gentle parenting, but you only have so much of a threshold. Because by the
Yeah.
end of the day, being a stay at home mom, and you're on your last nerve, let's say it's been a long day, Chloe's really uncomfortable, whatever it is, she's going through constipation, and gets home and he needs his own space and break from work in general and just needs to put his feet up for a few minutes. That's fine. But then, like, Chloe does something and I might just snap, like, listen, and so I'll just kind of lose it. Like, I'm not about to be physically abusive to her ever. And like, but I might yell at her a little bit. And that's not consistent at all, but that's me being human. And we have this idea in our head to be perfect, like Instagram, following all these high profile accounts that tell you what to do and the best way to gentle parent and blah blah blah. And so I try to give myself grace in those moments, because if she's losing it, I might lose it a little bit too. And that's okay, because I'm also showing her that it's okay for me to have some emotions too. I'm not going to mirror hers because that doesn't help anyone, but it's okay if I can't hold it together perfectly all the time. But I do my best. And like I said, I kind of take after my dad in that sense, which kind of helped me growing up under him as him as my parent, and watching him be a grandparent to Chloe. It's kind of the same deal. He's very hands off. He lets me do my own thing. He doesn't really have many comments. Like, I know that's kind of a thing with grandparents in general. Or yeah, so it's just, yeah, it's nice to watch him be a grandparent and for me to have grown up in a similar way of how I'm handling things. And I try to have Ben be on board too, but it's also one of those things where I like I said, I follow those Instagram accounts and we practice this, especially being stay-at-home mom, like practice it literally all day. And for Ben to not follow accounts, or he's not with Chloe all day every day and he doesn't see exactly how I do things. And so we're not always on the same page, and he's the absolute best he can be at every moment. It's just a little different sometimes, and that's okay. And we we have those discussions if we either of us need, like, maybe I need to loosen up and maybe Ben needs to learn a little bit more about a certain strategy that I'm implementing. And yeah, so it's all just a matter of being consistent and what works best for you and your family. And but yeah, sometimes there's extra words and comments and opinions coming from our parents or the grandparents. So yeah, it gets a little tricky when that happens though.
I think so too. And two things come directly to mind. The first one initially is there's an episode of Bluey where the kids are just like, Mom, 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 this, that, the other. They're like all over the mom. Her name is Chili in the Bluey episode. And the dad comes home from work and she looks at him and goes, I need 10 minutes. And she goes in her room, shuts the door, and immediately Bandit, which is the dad, recognizes the situation, sees the kids, goes, right, kids, outside. And I really, really appreciate in a children's cartoon that they're highlighting that sometimes we need a moment, right? There's times where we're not going to be the best version of ourselves, or we've had a whole day long of bantering or this, that, and the other. And instead of reacting in the way Chili probably wanted to react, which is the yelling, the snapping, the frustration built up moment, when in hindsight she might regret that in 20 minutes, which is as moms we typically do. Again, mom guilt. But in the same note, the dad supports her. The dad takes the kids outside, doesn't ask for an explanation, doesn't give the mom guilt, doesn't go, oh, don't be ridiculous or whatever. Initially goes, okay, got it, takes the kids outside and does whatever he can do to keep the kids away from the mom for that 10 minutes for her to calm down. And I find that I really appreciate that style of parenting, because there are moments in the day where we're, whether that's at work, whether that's with your husband, whether that's with your wife or your child or whatever, you're just like, I'm trying the best I can, and then something just snaps, and then you lose it, right? And I would say most of the time we look back and regret because it ends up being something small, like you stub your toe, or the kid spills the milk over. The kid didn't mean to spill the milk. The kid didn't mean to do X, Y, Z, or it was a learning opportunity for them. But the dad in that moment can be that educator in that moment. The mom needs to take a step back, or the primary care parent can take a step back. And I think that was a really, really amazing episode. I applaud Bluey and their script writing and how they write the episodes out, because there's so many of those moments that I tip my hat to them. I find that my parents are doing an amazing job at being a grandparent. They definitely have their comments and their feedback, and it all comes from a place of love. But I definitely am finding Chase and I are having to navigate that as a unit, on how to How to say this sensitively without being like insulting to anyone or, just aware, but like we're doing the best job we can with Cooper, but I also do want to break some of the generational stigma of like what a boy's boy can be, or,
Mm-hmm.
Cooper needs to be in this certain regards, or like there was a gentle comment that someone made joked that, oh my god, Cooper and I are gonna go watch the Dukes of Hazzard and check out the chicks in the short shorts. That immediately gave me the ick. I don't appreciate that.
Mm-hmm.
My kid's 2 years old. We're already going to start sexualizing women. We're putting this persona on Cooper. But in the same note, I think it was a way of this person just trying to connect and joke around with us and with him about it. Um, and like my sister and I have gotten after it a couple times. Cooper still has his pacifier. He is 2.5. It is absolutely time for us to cut it. With that being said, I am trying the best I can to parent the child I have, and we've had a lot of changes the past 2 months. We traveled in May, we traveled again all of August. We're back now. We're already in the process of how we're going to cut that. But I think until you're a parent in those shoes, it's hard to know what you're going to do or what the right answers to be. Where my sister comes from is she's an child's dentist. She's what's a pediatric whatever nurse. I'm saying this all wrong. And so she has seen some kids with absolutely messed up teeth. She knows what Cooper's best interests are from the perspective of her employment, what she does for a living. When she has a kid, she'll, I'm sure, not give their kid a passy or their thumb. But in the reality of what Chase and I have done or what Cooper is taken to, he's taken to a passy. So we're going to cut that out. And I think the generational parenting that you and I both experience comes from probably places of love and compassion or what they're used to or what their parents did, which is what then they're going to pass down. But I find your and my generation, the gen millennials, are trying to break some of that stigma or trying to break some of that generational trauma. Is a pretty broad term, but I do think that we're just trying to do things slightly different and want to parent kids that don't need to go to counseling or therapy from their childhood. And I think it's a bit taboo to say that out loud, and I'm not trying to offend anyone, but I just want Cooper to look back on his childhood, and I'm going to make mistakes, but I want him to know that we're trying the best we could, just like I know my parents were trying the best they could. Um, but it is a tricky one, hey, parenting kids nowadays, but also we have access to so many online resources, so many books, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok. Everything is at our disposal. So it's a tricky one, but how do you know how your dad was raised? Was he raised in a pretty strict upbringing? Did he have siblings? How was he raised?
Yeah, he had siblings. He has two full brothers and let's see, two half sisters and one half brother. I think that's all of them. And so he came from like, he has a lot of trauma in his childhood, unfortunately, and he's still working on it. So he comes from a little, lack of a better word, but messy childhood and messy family a little bit. And there's things to appreciate from it that I think he is taking on in what like he shared with me. But there's also a lot that he didn't like from it, and I do my best to not pry when he is talking about his childhood or his upbringing because I don't want to bring up feelings that he doesn't want to feel in the moment because I know he does a lot of self work and therapy. So yeah, it's just I can kind of tell that a lot of it of how he is and who he is as a dad and a grandparent comes from what he didn't experience and what he was actually lacking. And he's admitted
Mm-hmm.
that to me before too. He'll see how great Ben and I are with Chloe, and it makes him emotional because he didn't get that. So even one time, there was an incident with Cabo, our dog, and he like barked at Chloe, like nothing. I mean, it was a little scary. It scared her, right? Like I forgot what it was, but it startled my dad. My dad happened to be in town at that time. But the way that Chloe came to me right away and I just cuddled her, and then Ben handled Cabo right away. He just like took him outside and was just like, no. And then we were both there for Chloe right after. And like, that was like a big point for him to observe. Like, I don't know, he was just really emotional after that quote unquote incident. So but afterwards, he wasn't necessarily mad at Cabo, which I thought, I'm like, oh, please don't hate our dog. Like, we love him. He's our family. That was just a one time thing. And he's like, I'm just realizing just some deeper things are happening for me that I'm realizing and reacting to. So it's always interesting to kind of have those conversations come up with my dad. And he's very, like I said, self aware. So it's nice for him to observe Ben and my parenting style compared to his own and how he kind of like absorbs it too. He's very observant of how we are with Chloe so that he can mirror that and not be too off track because she needs consistency in her life, right? And like he likes what he sees with our parenting style, so he tries to do it the same. And so yeah, it's really nice in that way. And then with Ben's parents, like they're about to move out here. They still need to put their other Florida house up on the market to fully move out here, but they still have their house down the street in Arizona waiting for them. But I'm excited for that to happen. But I am a little bit nervous for transition. I guess nervous is the right word because
Yeah.
they're a little bit older too. Just I think yeah, they had Ben when I think Kathy was 40 when she had Ben. So they're slightly older in that generational sense. And so they raised Ben great. I freaking love him. Obviously, he turned out great. And I love my in laws. They are great as well. So, but then it's like there is a little bit of difference of like parenting style of like, not tough love, but just, a little bit less of the quote unquote gentle parenting style of being like super intuitive and like compassionate. And I'm not saying they're not at all. I'm just saying they're a little bit less than like what we practice and what I do like all day, every day. And that's fine too. Like I'm saying, like they've been out of the game for a little bit, or at least like in
Yeah.
the game, with raising Ben. So he's been out of their house for a really long time. So it makes sense when there's a bigger gap of the grandparents not having the quote unquote practice too. So that makes a
Hmm.
difference and a little bit less of a transition. But yeah, it's something that I want to address as we get into it and when I think it's a priority to bring up because obviously they're going to be babysitting Chloe here and there, right? Like maybe she'll spend a few nights here and there, or like maybe we'll make that a consistent weekly thing. I have no idea what the schedule is going to look like, but I do know she'll spend more time with them. So I do want to make sure that we're on the same kind of page with stuff. And I know that they want to be as well. So it's just, to me, it's really important when there are those generational differences that everyone's open to having those conversations and hopefully learning from each other, especially on the grandparent side, since, the parents' suggestions kind of overrule. They are the parents, but I mean, unless something big, it needs to be addressed. But yeah, I mean, that's kind of where we're at with all of it recently. So
Yeah.
very
Oh,
exciting though.
I was thinking about it because I, I'm very lucky that I'm close to my mom and dad, and I do call my mom like, oh, we were just out there for a month, and Cooper started growling, and I looked at my mom and I was like, oh my gosh, what do I do here? Or I use them. I don't quote use. I ask them for advice on a lot of things that I'm, learning and struggling through. Or it's always nice that I can phone a friend. And I have my mom who did have three girls. And I think the cool thing about motherhood is I can ask for her opinion or what she would do, and then you can kind of hybrid and change that into what you would like to do, or
Yes.
you can take their feedback and then transition into that. And just reflecting back on my parents' childhood, I think my mom, so she is one of four girls in my, very traditional background. My nanny was a military wife. My grandfather was in Vietnam and was a military husband, so was around for a while. And then, like, he was away at war. Literally, he wasn't even there when my mom was born. He met my mom when she was 3 months old. And
Oh
so
my
my
gosh.
nanny, we call her nanny, she's raised four girls pretty much alone, And so the way my mom talks about her childhood was always my mom and my nanny and all her siblings, and a very stereotypical background in that way. And then my grandfather was the disciplinarian. And so I think for my parents to see Chase so involved has been really awesome for them to see that, men can change diapers. Chase helps just as much with Cooper. Chase knows Cooper's schedule. Um, and he knows everything that's kind of going on in that regards. And so it's been really fun for my parents to see what an awesome parent Chase is. And my dad was really involved with us as kids. My mom was a full-time stay-at-home mom. My dad worked, and so she was around us all the time, and then dad was home, on the weekends and in the evenings. And then I think as we were getting into our teenage years, my dad took a step back in his pretty busy business and took a different direction in his life, and then was there for every game, every practice, and all that sort of respect. And so my dad learned to parent the same way my mom was, and they kind of shared disciplinarian roles. And I would say I like had a really nice hybrid upbringing with parenting. And so now, as they're watching Cooper and I, we definitely are a little bit more relaxed, or again gentle with him. Um, and I think that they want to jump in and go, oh, or they want to jump in, but they've been really good, especially in our last trip in August, of not speaking over what Chase and I were doing, or like giving too much feedback, which I really, really liked a lot. I think I've noticed the big difference between May when we were there and then in August. So I'm sure it's hard for parents, like our parents and grandparents, to see our kids and how they're acting and how, they're behaving, and they want to say something just to help. I think it all comes from a place of help. But I do
Yeah.
like the way Chase and I are kind of finding our own rhythm and how to raise Cooper, and how, I mean, we know him inside and out. It has been our own little world of us three since, we moved out here in
Yeah.
December. So we know him better than, anyone. And that means maybe we've got our blinders on and they're seeing something smack in our face that we need to address. But I think our communication levels have been really great, that my parents can say, hey, maybe you guys should, look at this or address this if it's really needed.
Yeah, I think that's what it comes down to is just like understanding those cues, right? Like whether us as the parents are asking, directly asking for advice and suggestions and help, and then also, our parents or, the grandparents reading into that and being like, okay, now is the time to share what I have to say about it. My dad is really good about that. He'll even ask me beforehand. So like, let's say I'm not directly asking for his advice, but he's good about saying, um, "Is it okay if I share, what I would do?" Or so he'll kind of phrase things in that way, and that's kind of rare too. So he'll bite his tongue a lot, I'm sure. But yeah, it's interesting when you have a lot of different opinions and experiences, and but like you were saying, you can kind of still mesh what you learn from whether it's our own parents or like any other people of different generations that you have in your life or maybe meet randomly, and you get to hear their stories, and you can pick and choose what you decide to apply yourself or not. And I think that's the beauty of like parenting styles forever changing and evolving. Like it just makes me curious what the heck is going to be the case for, or like the trend for the next 20 years or whatever. Like maybe when our kiddos are parents, if they decide to become parents, or if they can, whatever their future holds for them. But yeah, it's interesting. Yeah.
It is interesting. And I joke around, and it's not my original joke, but my mother in law, Trudy, shout out to her. She listens every single Thursday
Hi,
on the dot
Trudy.
on her lunch break. I just wanted to say, like, she always jokes and says her friends used to say she really wasn't a mom. She said Chase and Taylor kind of raised themselves, and that, like, she didn't have to do much, but I don't know how she did it. I mean, Chase kind of shared a little bit last week, but she was essentially a single mom raising two kids most of the week, and she was a full time employee, and she was able to raise two well mannered children who are able to enjoy life and have like a really great perspective and good temperaments. And I asked Chase how like his mom would have handled the situation, or were you spanked as a kid? Did you get soap in your mouth? Were you really grounded? And it's so interesting to see kind of how he was raised. And I mean, we lived on different coasts. Chase was on west or east coast. I was on west coast, and we've got an age gap. And so I always get curious on like, how did your mom handle situations like this? And we just spent about a week and a half with them back in Pennsylvania in August, and it was amazing to see her see Cooper and have his tantrums, and how she just sat with him and would sit on the ground while Cooper would kick and scream over something. And she sat there and would just rub his back and didn't have any feedback for me, wouldn't ask me to step in. And it was such a cool and
Love
amazing
that.
perspective to see her handle a situation. And then that helped me a little bit, and what a gift it is for us to have assets of like in-laws or siblings or friends that have kids and see how they handle situations, because you know it does take a village and it does take a ton of different styles. And I think honestly we could parent one situation as a gentle parent and then another situation really need to get tone in our voices because it's their safety at risk, right? So
Yes.
if they're going to run in the street, you need to raise your voice and have a tone. Is that the way they would say in the books to do it if you wanted to be a very straightforward, stereotypical, by the books gentle parenter? No, they would say never raise your voice at a kid. For me, I really think that if this is a situation, where your kid's at risk, whether that's with a knife, whether that's running into the street, XYZ is happening, you need to remember that you're in control and you guys can change parenting styles, and it's going to change every day and every situation, and you're doing a great job. And I'm sure that's probably also where our parents did really great at certain things. And looking back on how we were raised, there's probably things our parents regret doing or think, oh, I could have done that better. Just like it's the same way with you, me, and Cooper, and Chloe.
Yeah, 100%. And it's like there's that common comment of saying like, oh, well, you turned out fine or they turned out fine when you're like worked up about something, or like if you disagree on something that maybe how you were raised or someone was raised and they're grown up now. But it's just like, so I'm not a fan of that comment necessarily, but at the same point, I try to remind myself of that when I'm with Chloe and I'm in the trenches and being so OCD about like making sure that I'm doing the right thing or like saying the right thing or doing this the right way or handling her tantrum in the best way possible. So I try to be like, you know what, in the grand scheme of things, she will be great. Like she already is amazing. I'm doing great. I have to remind myself, and I hear you tell me all the time, I just have to like believe it and remind myself in those moments, because like it's hard when you are on your little bit of a breaking point or in a tough situation when our kids, especially they're freaking toddlers, of course they're going to be hard, and they're going to be hard in different ways as they continue to grow up. But yeah, to kind of just remind yourself that whatever you are doing in the moment, as long as they're safe and loved still, then it's fine. Like gentle parenting may be trending right now and it's very effective. Yes, it's great, but it also isn't like the only way to do things. And it's not like perfection by any means. So I need to remind myself, because that is like my OCD. It's like I have to be just right. Like that's kind of my category of things. So I try to like loosen up a little bit, and like, especially when other people are around, I try not to like have my thought process be so out loud or like so on display, because I'm like, okay, people can't actually know I'm crazy. So it kind of helps when Ben's parents are around or maybe my dad's around, because then I'm not so like in the details of my own process. But yeah, just for anyone else who's listening, of just like, you're doing good the way you're doing it. And like I said, as long as your kiddos are loved and safe, like you're doing everything just as you should be and just as they deserve, and they're great right now and they will continue to be great.
And I was going to cut you off, but I stopped myself. But I just wanted to say, as we say in our outro every episode, because sometimes we're getting things right more than we're getting them wrong, or like that's our plan. And I think as parenting as a whole, we're getting things right more than we're getting them wrong. And every day we're learning just as much as our kids are. There's no rule book. There's no like guide on your child. So just know that like every day is a different day, and you're going to succeed in a lot of ways, and other days we're going to fail, but you have a reset the next day, so don't worry.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, this was wonderful. I loved this.
Yeah.
Hopefully
as always,
too much dirty laundry.
I know, right? We could just like continue to just air it all out all day, every day. So, but we'll wrap this one up.
Absolutely. Well, thanks for joining us on this week's episode of Mom Meets World. We really appreciate you guys for listening, and I love chatting with you and exploring all things of our life.
Yes, same. All right, see you guys next time.
Bye. Thanks for joining us on this week's episode of Mom Meets World. If you enjoyed listening, please give us a like, subscribe, and find us on Instagram at Mom Meets World Pod.
Because sometimes you just need another mom to remind you that you're getting it right more than you're getting it wrong. See you next time.